Gaming Caps.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Gaming Capsules. It's finally here. The mini console every single person out there has been excitingly waiting for. The Game Gear Micro. I'm kidding, of course. These things are apparently so tiny. I honestly have no idea what to expect. Just like everybody else, I didn't know if these would be even usable. So, I obviously got myself all 4 of them, which I hope I won't regret. And I thought I would kind of discover these alongside you guys in this very video. It might be a cool collectible novelty item, I guess, but I kind of want to be able to also play these games since that's what they're for. Now, these are Japanese exclusives, so, you know, if you don't read Japanese, there is a language barrier for some of the included titles. Pre-ordering the whole set allowed me to also snag the Big Window Micro, which is a magnifying glass. It might make this thing easier to see, I guess. Who knows? I'm actually questioning some of my life choices as I look at these right now, so I really hope they're good. Well, since this is the one I was most excited about, let's start with the Yellow Micro, aka the Shining Force Gaiden Edition. You can see art from the awesome Hiroshi Kajiyama, one of my absolute favorite artists growing up. May he rest in peace. The 4 games included are the 3 Shining Force Gaiden games, which are some of my favorite games on the original Game Gear, and Nazo Puyo, Haruru no Ru. Now, this box looks cool, but it's already surprisingly small. My hands are probably not even a good reference, so here. This is what it looks like next to a Switch game case. Just like most minis, these boxes look like the ones for the Japanese Game Gear boxes, back in the day. Inside the box, we have the instructions, and this is way too cute. The tiny little console inside a neck carton, just like the originals, I guess. Man, this is tiny. But it actually looks pretty cool for a collectible. In terms of the manual, I'm a little disappointed that the manual for the actual games are not included, considering how there aren't even that many games included, and how much this thing actually costs. Like with most of the other mini consoles, scans of the manuals are available online on the official website, and I highly recommend using them if you plan to seriously play any of these games. I mean, they have cool original artworks which make them fun to look at, sure, but old games kinda required using manuals. For RPGs, most of the items and spell descriptions are found there, and for everything else, well, games used to not disrupt gameplay to teach you how to play them, so you had to use the manual. It's kind of annoying to go online to access them, but I guess you can download them on your cell phone and look at them whenever necessary. Anyways, the actual manual included gives a lot of information on how to use your micro. Kind of a standard for these things, so there's not much to say. Just look at this thing! Look at how tiny all these buttons are compared to my fingers, holy wow. Am I even gonna be able to play with this? Looking at the back, you have a fake card with a label showing the titles of the games included. And this looks like a battery cover. Yep, you need 2 AAA batteries. Looks like you can plug a USB cable to power it up too, but the battery thing is kind of disappointing. I'll have to see if I have some lying around. Good. Looks like they're still good to go. I'll also go ahead and assemble the magnifying glass. I suspect I'll be needing this. Wow, it actually took me quite a while. There are printed instructions included which shows you how to assemble it, but the plastic felt like it could snap in half if I didn't do it carefully, so that was a little scary. Let's try this thing out. In terms of being able to make out what's on the screen, this is the set I also have the most doubts with. Shining Force has a lot of text, and if it's too tiny to read and make out anything, then it kinda has no value. Nazopuyo is a puzzle game, and the pieces are originally tiny looking in the original Game Gear. So this will actually be a great way to tell just how good the microscreen really is. Kinda hard to film though. I'm gonna switch to a macro lens. I'm sorry in advance if this looks shaky or weird. I'm not looking through the viewfinder since I want to see with my own eyes what the game screen looks like. But the camera is kind of also on the way, so I'm in a weird angle right now. This thing is tiny. Wow. So, despite my weird angle and having my face kind of far from the screen, I can read this. It's ridiculously small. I wonder if I can get tired or eye strain or something from looking at this thing, but I'm surprised to say that I can make out all of these characters. I don't remember if any of these games have kanji in them, but so far, hiragana and katakana are very readable. I'm guessing English text on this thing would be really easy to make out too. But I don't see this thing being released in the West unless they make it bigger anyways. Let's try the magnifying glass. I'm not sure it's bigger, maybe it is. On the camera, you can make out all the intricate details of the lens, but it's actually not that bad. At least, I'm not seeing it like that myself. The image seems fairly clear. But is it really bigger? Here. Let's slide it a bit to compare. Yeah, I guess it's quite a bit bigger. It's just that it's so small that even with the lens, it's still too small. When I saw images of the lens, I thought it'd make things look as big as the original Game Gear or something, I guess, so... Yeah, this is kinda cool, but not really sure I'll be using this lens too much. So I guess if you didn't get it, you're not missing out. In terms of button presses, my first impression is that it controls surprisingly well. Feels too small for my fingers, but things are going the way I want them to. Not that this is the best game to test controls on anyways. The sound on this thing though, it's really impressive. It's both loud and rich for such a tiny cheap looking device. Next up, I'm not gonna show all the Shining games since they're all fairly similar. Great stuff though, I highly recommend them if you can play them. Instead, let's try Puyo. Now, this game. The Puyo pieces looked so tiny on a regular Game Gear screen already. Actually, the original Game Gear screen was honestly kind of crap, despite the big size and colors. So maybe this is gonna look better? I don't know. I like how they had the guts to have most of the game screen be taken up by decorations. But, wow. As tiny as they are, I can see the pieces. Again, I don't know if this thing is healthy to look at for extended periods of time, but color me surprised. Next up, the Black Game Gear. This one has Sonic the Hedgehog, Puyo Puyo 2, Outrun, and Royal Stone. A very diverse selection of games actually. If you can't read Japanese, only one of the 4 games included is inaccessible. Now, this one has the exact same manual as the other one. This is a model that I'm very familiar with. Here, let's compare it with its big sister. Man, it's not even as big as the original Game Gear screen. The original feels like a humongous monster in comparison, and it's not even that big. Okay, so with Sonic, I can now actually test the controller since it requires a bit more dexterity than an RPG or a puzzle game. Like I mentioned before, I'm positioned a little weird right now, so it's not too comfortable, but it seems to be playing well. I wonder if I can realistically play the entire game on this though. Would my hands get tired? Let's try to back out into the menu. You have to hold the start button, which is not as easy as it sounds, cause it's kinda spongy. You have to hold it down real hard. Next up, Puyo Puyo 2. Looks good, controls well. Outrun. Again, besides my uncomfortable position right now, I'm not really noticing any issues. It's playable. Finally, Royal Stone, another RPG. Text is, again, very readable, just like with Shining Force. Here's the Red Micro. This one might actually interest a lot of Western collectors, as it has the 2 Game Gear Shin Megami Tensei games. Lots of Megaten collectors out there. Also included is the first Game Gear Shinobi, one of the best games you can play on a Game Gear, and Columns, which I think everybody knows by now. Not too bad in terms of variety, though again, if you can't read Japanese, chances are you won't get much enjoyment out of the first 2 games. Besides the collectible aspect, of course. Anyways, no surprises here, you have the same manual and little red console. Unlike the previous minis, this one sort of has 6 games. It has an easy version of the 2 Shin Megami Tensei games, where your character growth is tripled and the difficulty is lowered. First up, Last Bible 1. I think the text is even smaller than in the previous games, but it's still readable. Everything seems good, not much to say here. Next up, Last Bible 2. This one has such a cool opening. Graphically, it's quite the showcase for what the Game Gear could do. Now for some GG Shinobi. The controls are very responsive, but I'm noticing something. My thumbs are sometimes pressing the 1 and 2 buttons at the same time. Totally unintentional. I guess I need to get used to move my thumbs to the far edges or something. Anyways, not bad. Wonder if I can actually beat this one on the micro. Still, it's an excellent game. Now, for columns, let's pick the most annoyingly tiny looking pieces. I don't actually recommend it, but I can actually clearly see the numbers on all of these tiles. I'm looking directly at the micro screen, which is nowhere near as big as what you see on this video right now. It's actually impressive. Finally, let's look at the fourth and final Game Gear Micro, the light blue one. Sonic and Tails, Gunstar Heroes, Sylvan and Baku Baku Animal are the games included. If you absolutely want one of these and don't speak Japanese at all, I think this one has the best selection of games for a Westerner. It has one RPG, but it plays like a Zelda game. The other 3 games do not require any reading to enjoy. Again, no surprises here, same manual. Another reason to get this one. If you want to get these for the adorable factor, this is the one. The baby blue coupled with the size, it's ridiculous. First up, Sonic and Tails. I seem to be able to control this and make out all the details of the game without any problems. I'm gonna play this thing more seriously in the next couple of days and see if that opinion holds. I'm really curious to know if my hands would cramp up or something, or if my eyes would get tired from looking at such a tiny screen. But so far, so good. Next, Gunstar Heroes. This was an impressive game on the Genesis, so I'm still surprised a Game Gear version existed in the first place. It's tiny AF, but it's playable. Another one I should see if it's possible to actually beat on this thing. Here's Sylvan. So this one you have to double tap to run, and I'm noticing that this is not an easy thing to do. I'm just not getting consistent double taps. Thankfully, once you start the run, it's easy to keep it going and change directions. But yeah, it's hard to describe how the D-pad feels, but it's kind of like a thumbstick more than a traditional pad. So yeah, double tapping is not, it's just not easy. Kind of unexpected, but out of all the games I tried today, this one seems to be the most difficult one to control. Now for the final game today, here's Baku Baku Animal. It's a versus puzzle game, just like Puyo Puyo. And you have these little cutscenes before a match, just like Puyo Puyo. As tiny as it is, again, all the pieces are very visible. I had a lot of doubts as to whether puzzle games and RPGs could be easy to see, but I'm surprised to say that yes it is. Actually, you can even very clearly see that super microscopically tiny screen on the right, showing the opponent's playing field. Well, that's it for today's look at the Game Gear Micro. Hope you guys liked it. For the moment, I am not regretting this purchase. Phew, am I right? That said, I think that the plastic casing on the device feels really cheap. The buttons are way too small, so while most games seem to play well, I do wonder about extended use. Also, Holding start to access the menu seems a little difficult since the button is way too spongy. Otherwise, the screen and sound quality are surprisingly high. Should you buy this thing? Probably not, unless you're a die-hard fan of the Game Gear. Since it's so tiny and not too many games are included, it's kind of a weird introduction to the system if you've never played any of these games. I'm not sure they should cost as much as they do either, and it's kind of expensive to import. But if you were worried about them being unusable like I was, you might actually be surprised. If you have any more questions about it, or if there's anything you want me to verify, feel free to ask. I'm gonna be playing this more seriously in the next few days. I'm also gonna be posting purchase links in the video's description below, so if you're watching this and think you still wanna get one, there you go. If you like this video, please don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Kind of obvious, but it helps me grow the channel. Well, have a great rest of your day, and until next time.